Tech by Tips.
Hello and welcome to another Tech by Tips video. First of all, my apologies because last week I did not release a video. I had visitors here at home and I honestly did not have the time to work on the video, so I'm really sorry about that. But today I'm gonna bring you something very interesting. We're now in the age of generative AI, where we have computers that basically can write books, can write code, can paint pictures, and create even videos. And as you know, this has mainly been driven by the nVidia graphics cards and accelerators, but there's a new kid in the block, and finally, if you have AMD graphics cards, you can get the best performance with your card, and it works almost like if you had a nVidia card, especially with the latest generation of the AMD cards. It's good for you if you have an AMD card, like in my case. I have an RX 7900 XT, and the performance you can get out of that card now is amazing. So on this video, we're going to be setting up Automatic 1111, the Stable Diffusion web user interface, using my RX 7900 XT, which is an AMD graphics card, and then making sure that it works and testing it and just, making sure that we get good performance out of that card. So let's go ahead and cover how we got to this point. These are images that I generated before. This is like a weird Dumbledore that is casting spells. They turned out pretty good. I'm pretty surprised. Alright, so how do we get to use an AMD graphics card and do almost the same performance as an nVidia graphics card? That is thanks to something called ZLUDA. And you would say, what the heck is ZLUDA? Well, it's an open source project. You can find it on GitHub at github.com/vosen/ZLUDA. And this is basically CUDA for non-nVidia GPUs. So it's an open source implementation of the CUDA API, so that other graphics cards, and this is specifically for AMD and Intel, so they can actually have a similar API and then perform the same kind of actions that an nVidia card would be able to do. So in this case, this project was kind of dead for a little bit because the company that was founding them suddenly decided that they didn't want it to be open source. So then the developer had to roll back all the changes that they made to a previous version that was fully open source, and now he continued with that to the point that he doesn't have a restriction, and the improvements have been great. It says that it's supporting from the Radeon RX 5000 series and up. I even have a 580, 8 gigabytes, and it works on those. So it is very good. Even kind of oldish cards work with this. And as you can see here, you can compare the performance of ZLUDA with OpenCL on a bunch of different things. Alright, so what is CUDA? CUDA is a Compute Unified Device Architecture. So basically it's a set of APIs and tools for developers to be able to use GPUs and all the power that they have to process data in parallel, because that's the main thing, that's the main benefit of GPUs in this case. So ZLUDA is basically another type of Compute Unified Device Architecture, but is open source. It doesn't belong to nVidia like CUDA. And then ROCm it's basically the equivalent of the software stack to manage the graphics card and use the AMD graphics cards. So what is the benefit of using graphics cards, and why are graphics cards the ones that drive the AI revolution, right? So that basically comes down to this description here. The CPU is a central processing unit that is able to handle very complex tasks, but it does it kind of slow because it only has a very few amount of cores that are able to process things, and it relies on memory that's a little slower and storage that is slower. So the difference here is that a graphical processing unit, or a GPU, contains a lot more processing cores, but they're dedicated to doing very simple, fast calculations. That's why they're great, because you can have a huge amount of parallel calculations happening at the same time, And another thing is that they have very fast memory in the board, so it is very fast when it needs to move data around. So the AI algorithms benefit from this because what they do is like a neural network where it does a bunch of little steps to do calculations to identify if a prediction that is done by the model actually fulfills what is the thing in reality. And that's why graphics cards have been the drivers of the AI revolution. So in the end, this is what we're going to be having. On the left side is the stack when you look at it from the view of using nVidia graphics cards, and on the right side is a stack if we're using an AMD GPU. So on the left side you would have the hardware, which is the nVidia graphics card here, and then on top of that there's the CUDA framework to use the graphics card, and then Stable Diffusion uses Python and CUDA to do all the things that it needs to do. Now in the case of AMD graphics cards, then we have the AMD graphics card here, and then we have the ROCm framework, which is the equivalent of CUDA here, but that one is specifically to the hardware. And then we have ZLUDA, which is the libraries and the APIs that are necessary for an application to interact with all of this below. So then we have ZLUDA, and on top of that, Stable Diffusion uses Python and ZLUDA to interact with all of this. So as you can see, there's one layer more in the AMD side, but the performance is very, very similar actually. So it doesn't work bad at all. Now for this tutorial, I'm going to be using this guide here that is found on github.com/cs10/stable-diffusion.info. This is a bunch of guides that have been compiled by this person that show you how to install several different UIs and with different frameworks. So if you have NVIDIA graphics cards, they have it here, but if you have AMD graphics cards, they also have it here, so that's great. And in my case, I'm going to be installing Automatic 1111 in this video, and I'm going to do it with ZLUDA. There's another option, which is DirectML, that you can use, but this is slower and it uses a lot more VRAM, so I'm going to focus on using ZLUDA, which is the best performance that we can get. Now, if we click here, we start with the instructions, but first, let's validate some things here. So it says that in order for this, we need to have a supported GPU, so let me look at this list here, and you can see here, the list goes from the 680M APUs to the RX 570s. I have the RX 582, which is 8 gigabytes, and it works for those. And all the way up to the new generation ones, I have the 7900XT in my computer, so that's what we're going to be using for this video. Let me show it to you right here. So if you look at my graphics, I have the RX 7900XT that has 20 gigabytes of VRAM, and I have 64 gigabytes of RAM on my computer, and my CPU is an i7-10700K, so that's more than enough for this. And we validated that we have a graphics card that works in here, so that's important. You always come here and check that your graphics card is supported. The next thing that it says that we need the updated driver, so it has to be Adrenalin 2411 or newer. So let me show you that really quickly. So if I go into my Radeon, I have 2531, so that, as you can see, is way newer than this, so we're good on that side. And then we need to install Git 64-bit and Python 3.10.11. This is very, very important. Python has to be 3.10.11 64-bit. So that's things that we need to download. They have the link here so you can download it. I've already installed Git 64-bit and Python 3.10.11, but I'm going to cover what you need to do here. So you download all those files and you would end up with this. When you run Git and you install this, you're going to say next, next, basically leave everything as it is, and then it installs. And once that is done, then you should be able to clone repositories using Git in your Windows machine. And it's almost done, and that's great. So we're done here. Then the other thing that we need to install is Python 3.10.11. In my case, I already have it installed, so I'm not going to do that. But one important thing to note here is when you install, you're going to have a checkbox at the bottom of the installation and says add Python to the path. Make sure that you select that so that you have Python accessible in your command line. So for example, if you say Python version, it recognizes that I have Python 3.10.11. So Python is accessible as a command. And once you have that, then we have these two requirements here. So we're good, we can continue with this. Now, the next thing that we need to do is we need a folder in our system. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have a folder here. It's called video and it's in my C drive. So I'm gonna install it here. So I'm gonna put my cursor here. I'm gonna type CMD and press enter, and then I'm gonna get the command prompt in this location, which is right there. And now what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be cloning the repository that has all the information that we need. So we're gonna copy this command here, and then we're gonna go into the command prompt and we're gonna paste that in here and run it. And as you can see here, it's downloading the web UI repository, and now we have it here. Perfect. So that's the first step that we had here. The next thing that we have to do here is we need to go into that folder and we need to go into the web UI user bat and edit it, and we're gonna add this here to the command line. So we go here, inside here, we go to the web UI user bat file, edit, and then that file is gonna come up, and we click here on command lines and we paste that and save. It's telling it to use ZLUDA when it runs to make sure that it does an update check and to skip ORT. And now we have the commands configured properly in the web UI script. Now we need to then set up ZLUDA. In our case, since I have a graphics card that is basically of the latest ones, I'm not gonna run with ROCm 5.7. 5.7 is for old ones like the RX 580. I'm gonna use the 624 because that's for GPUs that are higher or newer than RX 6800. So you have a link here where you download the AMD HIP SDK 624, which I've already downloaded. So you see it here. And this is the file that we need to install now. So this is like a driver installer, but it is not going to install the driver per se. This is going to install the ROCm libraries in your system so that then you have ROCm there accessible for your graphics card. So you can see it's an installer very similar to the installer for the driver. So you would go ahead, open it, wait for it to load. You're going to leave everything as a default, so everything has to be full installation, and then you just install it. So make sure that you see full and everything, and the version is 6.2.0, which in this case will be higher than that, and then you say install, and that's going to install the ROCm libraries that are necessary for your graphics card. And then you'll see that if you go into program files, AMD, and then you go into here, you'll see ROCm is going to be shown in here, and then 6.2, which is the version that we want for the graphics card. So wait for it to do the installation. It's going to take a little bit of time, and then we continue. And now that we have installed this, we have the ROCm libraries here and everything is good. So now we can proceed with the steps here. Alright, so the next thing that we need to do is we need to get the ZLUDA files for our ROCm 6 version. And here's the URL that we have to download it. I've already downloaded it, right? So I have it here. It says ZLUDA Windows ROCm 6. And what we need to do is we need to extract all these libraries here. So we can basically copy this. And then we need to put this into a directory in our computer that is going to be on the C drive, right? It's a good place to put it. And we then make sure that we drop all that in there. So I already done that, so let me just show it to you. So I already have a folder named ZLUDA in the C drive, and I dropped all of those files there that I got from that zip file. So like it says here, we move everything into the C drive in a folder named ZLUDA, and now we just need to restart our computer and then skip to step 4 to proceed with the guide, because our graphics card is fairly new, so we don't need to worry about that. So this doesn't apply because we don't have an older GPU, but if you do, then you would have to follow the guides that are here. And then we jump straight into the step number 4, which says that we need to add the ZLUDA folder that we just created into the environment variables in our system. So let's go ahead and do that. For that, we click on the Windows icon and then we type environment, and then you see something that says and edit the system environment variables. So we click on that, we click here where it says environment variables, and here we go. We have this window here where we select the path and then we say edit. And when we edit here, you can see that I added a new entry that points to the folder C/ZLUDA, which is that folder that I just created. Now, there's another thing that I want to highlight in here because it's something that I had to learn on my own that is not in the guide. If you look at my machine, let me bring the task manager back up. I have two graphics cards. I have the internal graphics card that comes with my CPU, which is the Intel UHD Graphics 630, and I have my Radeon graphics card. So when Stable Diffusion tries to run, it gets confused because it sees two graphics cards and it tries to use both of them. So in this case, we need to add this option here that says CUDA _ visible _ devices, and we make it 0. So we're saying focus on the device number 0 in the PCI board. So in that case, it will be my Radeon graphics card, and it'll ignore the Intel graphics card, and then we won't get errors related to that. Because if you don't do this, you're gonna get a weird error when you try to run Stable Diffusion that says, oh, you have multiple GPUs and I don't know what to do with it, or something like that. So now that you have the ZLUDA folder in the path and this added here, you can okay, and you're done with that step here. So now it is accessible through the path. And now we should be able then to just open the web UI user bat file by double clicking it, and then it'll trigger the application to start for us, and we should be able to start using the automatic 1111 web UI for Stable Diffusion. So let's go into that folder, and then we go to that web UI user bat file. We double click that and it's gonna start here. So that is good. We have to wait. If it's your first time running the application, it's gonna definitely need to download things that are related to Python. So you will see, it's trying to install pip and update packages, and it also downloads extra things that it needs. It checks for the update to the repository, and it downloads the requirements for Python to work properly in our use case. So you have to be very patient because this first time that you run it is going to take a good amount of time. So we just have to be patient. Like it says here, it could be anywhere from 15 minutes to like an hour. So just let it do its thing, and then we'll be back when that is actually done. As you can see here, it's installing the packages that it collected that are necessary for Stable Diffusion to run. So just be patient. It's gonna download a lot of stuff, and you need to have a good connection. If your connection is also not very good, it's also gonna take longer. So just know that. Oh, another thing that I would recommend is when you execute this, don't start clicking enter and stuff. If it looks like it's stuck, it's not stuck. It's doing stuff in the back. If you start like pressing enter and keys and typing stuff, you might mess the process up. So don't do that. Just let it run on its own. Just be patient. If you need to, go grab a cup of coffee or leave the computer and come back later. Alright, it downloaded some packages and it was installing things, but then I got a weird error that said press any key to continue, because it couldn't find something. So I pressed any key and then restarted the web UI file again, and now it continued ahead. So if that does happen to you, just close it and reopen it. And as you can see, it's downloading other stuff that it needs. So now it's downloading the version 1.5 model of Stable Diffusion, and it's adding it to the folder where we have the user interface. And now it has opened the window, but it opened it on my other monitor. So let me bring it here and make it accessible to this side. Here we go. We have the user interface of Stable Diffusion by automatic 1111. And if we refresh here, we'll see if we have any models loaded here. So we have the one that it just downloaded, which is 1.5 pruned EMA only safe tensors. So at least we got this one. So at this point, we should be able to test this and see if it generates anything for us. So let's go ahead and do something like, for example, a cat wizard wearing a pointy hat, blue starry eyes. Let's see if that works for us, and then we might have to add a negative prompt in here. I like to use Keras here to generate. 20 steps is going to be fine for now. Let's see how it works. So we generate, and then you can see how fast it is. Boom! Using the GPU, it was immediate, it was fast. So, and we got here our image of a wizarding cat. It was kind of messed up, so we can probably do a little bit better than this, but it works. So in here, let's say that we want to make an image bigger. So because right now it's going to generate a 512 for 512, but we have the option here to use the high resolution fix here and increase it to a bigger size. So let's say if we can create an image that's 1024 by 1024 and see how long it takes. So as you can see, it was pretty fast and it's a bigger image now, and it generated that image here and we have it, and it looks all right for being just a simple prompt without any other things. I think this is good enough. So now let's try to do something better, more with more quality, I would say. So for that, we can do something like this. We can go into Civit.AI and look for a model here. So the way I do that is I go into models and then I search in the filters here and I say, okay, I want a checkpoint. So that's a full model. And then I want to make sure that it's a safe tensor file format. And I want it on, in this case, version 1.5 hyper. And then it shows us a few of them here. So we can select one of these models and see what we can generate with it. So let's see what realistic vision shows us. We have a few examples here of a portrait of a woman and a man. All right, some cities in the background and people, some kind of futuristic thing. We got some nice backgrounds. So this looks like it's nice. So we can try to generate something similar to this. We have animals, cars. This is looking good. So, okay, let's say we want to generate something like this castle here that looks very good. So we can select this and then we should see a prompt here that tells us how that was created. We have a negative prompt in here too. So let's copy this into the Stable Diffusion user interface. I believe I copied the first one here. And now we're going to copy the negative prompt, and now we don't have this model, so that's the next thing we need to do. We need to go into download, and then it's going to start a download and we need to save it. So we're going to be doing that now. So I am here, I go into the web UI folder, then here we go into the models. In here we go into Stable Diffusion. You see the one that we currently had, and then we're going to drop this one in there. So we save it and we wait for it to download into our computer. My connection is kind of fast, so the 4 gigabytes should be pretty fast, about 1 or 2 minutes to download. So once we have that, we'll come back. All right, it looks like it's about to finish downloading, and there we go. It has completed. Let's just wait for it to clear over here. All right, it has completed, so I can clear this, and then we can go back into the user interface. And now if we go here, we don't see it, so we need to refresh. And once we refresh, then we have the model that we just downloaded, which in this case is Realistic Vision version 6. So we wait for it to load the model. So it takes a little bit of time. And there we go. We see that it has loaded. Everything is working here now. We have the prompt here. Let's do the generation here. We have the high resolution, so it's going to be 1024 by 1024. And let's see how long it takes. So we can see here it's pretty fast. We're using that GPU to the maximum, and that is great. We're at 98% here, even though it says that it's completed here. So let's wait until the image is saved, and there we go. This is the image that was generated by the model that we just downloaded, and as you can see, it's a high quality image, and it's kind of similar, like a castle with columns and stuff, and has about the same style. So it is working for us now. So we have the Stable Diffusion Automatic 1111 interface here. We can just go ahead and get creative and create a bunch of images of things that we would like to see here. So that's going to be it for this one. I wanted to show you how you can get the Stable Diffusion Web UI by Automatic 1111 and use your AMD GPU at the best that it can, using the maximum speed that you can from your graphics card, so you don't have to spend upwards of $1,500 to get an nVidia graphics card if you're interested in getting into AI and generation. So I hope you liked it. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so, comment in the comment section below because I try to help you out whenever you have issues with the videos, and I also create my videos based on things that you let me know in the comments that you would like to see. Now, this is kind of a new kind of thing for the channel. This is not deploying stuff, but if you're interested in more AI videos, let me know and I'll gladly try to make those for you too. And again, you should have not received an ad on my video, and that is because I am on purpose not monetizing the channel. But that means that all the effort that I spend in making the videos give me zero money as a return. So if you like my content and you want to support me, go to the link in the description below and donate via PayPal if you want to support me. There's also a Bitcoin wallet there that you can donate to if you prefer to do it that way. And yeah, that's gonna be it for this one. I'll see you on the next video.